Today's show is all about binding. Stay tuned to learn how to finish your quilts. Hey quilters, welcome to AccuQuilt Live. I'm Pam Heller, AccuQuilt's cutting expert. Thanks for joining us today. Emily's in the house. How are you, dear?
I'm so good. I'm really excited for today's show because I just started a little table runner of my own, and I can't wait to go and get into the nitty-gritty of binding tips.
Binding, and we were talking, and we'll talk about it here in the show, about a project you did and the binding wasn't so good, and how you need to fix that.
She needs help.
All right, so where is everybody watching from today? Okay, first of all, Nancy just came in from shoveling snow in Michigan. Thanks for joining us, Nancy. Bonnie says it's snowing in Arizona.
Oh my goodness.
And Deborah is from Snohomish, Washington. Thanks for joining us today. All right, let's showcase the new projects from our intro video. First up, look at this one. This is from Julie Ann Kay. Isn't this so pretty?
It is gorgeous. All
right, Emily, do you know what dye it is?
Okay, Winding Ways.
Winding Ways. It is really kind of made a comeback. I made a quilt this year using that dye, and I know that Erica did as well. It's really pretty.
Yeah.
Next we have Mary Kay. Isn't this gorgeous? Okay, do you know the dye? It's one of the
Feathered
stars.
Star.
Feathered Star, yeah.
Yes, those colors.
I like the scrappiness, but look at how clean those lines are on that dye.
I love how they just, they stand out against that nice white background, and then kind of that piano key border is just ties a little fun into it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That.
Last up, we have Rachel Ivy C. Okay, this one is so cute because it's squares and rectangles, right? I'm sure she used her strip dye.
Absolutely, and it just goes to show you that, you know, sometimes the simplest patterns can have such the biggest impact, you know, and the fabric choices were fabulous.
Right.
And
I feel like because that was such vibrant fabric, the simple cutting was beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, here is my photo of the day. You can tell I took this last year because it has somewhat of a striped binding. Today's show is all about binding. So the question of the day is, how many UFOs do you still need to bind? All right, so in the comments section, give us a number. Emily?
I probably have, let's see,
just
the Ohio Star, well, because that needs to be quilted, so 0 actually right now.
Soon she will have 2.
Soon I will have 2, yes.
Yeah, there you go. I actually have one that's here today, and I have 2 at home that still need binding. Binding is kind of the bane of my existence, so we're really excited to talk about it today. All right, don't forget to check out the AccuQuilt website for some great deals and discounts. So today I'm giving away one of our Go 2 1/4 inch strip dies. This size strip is perfect for a tighter binding on a quilt. Maybe you're looking to enter it into a show or the fair. They like those tighter bindings on that. So be sure and register for future events on the AccuQuilt event page for your chance to win. By registering, you'll receive all of our event emails, and that way you'll never miss an exciting tutorial. The amazing Emily will announce the winner of our registered viewer at the end of our show. Okay, so today we're just talking about all these different sizes of strip dies. So the 2 1/2 inch strip die, the 2 1/4 inch strip die, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, and for all of these strip dies, you're gonna need a 10 by 24 mat. All right, so we're gonna use these strip dies to make a variety of bindings for your quilt. Now keep in mind today, quilters, I'm gonna use my Go Big fabric cutter, and all of those strip dies will fit through the Go or the Go Big. If you have the Go Me, we have 2 strip dies that will fit through it. We have one that has multiple strips, 1 1/2 and 2 inch strips, and then there's a 2 1/2 inch strip for that smaller cutter. So don't feel like you can't be using your binding.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, be sure and use those, okay? All right, so let's start with basic binding. Hold please. Let me grab my strip dies. I have so many of them over here, Emily.
I know, we have 18. I mean, my goodness, 18 sizes. It's
We
unbelievable.
do. All right. All right, so let's start with basic binding. Most quilters use 2.5-inch strips to bind their quilts. So whether you finish them by machine or by hand, this truly is the most accurate and fastest way to cut 2.5-inch strips. So I'm gonna show you the die and we're gonna talk about it, okay? So first of all, this particular die has 3 sections of 2.5 inches. So there are blades right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? No blades down here, no blades down here. Now, these lines here also have no blades. They're to help you cut squares and diamonds, which we're not going to show you how to do today, but we do have quite a few videos on YouTube and Facebook that you can learn how to cut squares and diamonds with this. Today we're just going to cut strips, okay? So the thing you want to remember is that 2.5, 2.5, and 2.5 is 7.5 inches. You just want to add 1/4 inch on either side. And what you want to do is rough cut 8 inches of fabric, okay? Which is what I have done here. And I've also cut off the selvage, which is, so I've cut a width of fabric strips 8 inches wide. Emily, do you know why we would cut off those selvage edges?
Because it kind of causes the fabric to go a little bit past those cutting blades. And so if you want that nice crisp cut at the end, you can just trim those right off and it'll...
Yeah, you're gonna get rid of them anyway. You might as well do it before you start cutting.
Exactly.
All right, now if you had, I'm only gonna cut 2 layers today, but if you had 6 layers, all of our Go cutters can cut up to 6 layers of cotton fabric, or dyes, sorry. You can, if you had 6 layers, you could cut enough binding for a queen size quilt in 1 pass through the cutter, which is miraculous, okay? So what you want to do is you want to take the fold of your 8-inch strip, okay, and you want it parallel to this black line. This black line says, hey, there are no more blades past here.
Exactly.
If it goes all the way to the edge, it's going to stop cutting here and here and here and here. And you're going to have like hula skirts instead of strips. I feel like you want to have strips, okay? So you want to make sure that it's parallel to that black line. Now, sometimes quilters say, oh, I'm getting these little mountains in the middle.
Right.
The reason you're doing that, the reason that happens is if this fold isn't parallel to this black line, then it's going to cut them wonky, okay? So make sure that when you're laying down your fabric that you lay it down parallel to that black line, okay? Now, the blades also end on this side. So after this point, there are no more blades. So if we had left that selvage on, then it would have stopped cutting and you're gonna have those little tips, okay? So what you're gonna need is a 10 by 24 mat, okay? Again, you could cut 6 layers if you needed to. And I'm gonna move my drink out of the way. Again, I'm gonna use my Go Big fabric cutter. This will fit in the Go and the Go Big. All right, Emily, so where we're cutting strips, tell us how many UFOs do people have to bind?
Oh, we've got so many. So we've got Miss Mary who has 3, Judy's working on 4 right now. We have Carol who has 20.
Oh, Joe is so far the winner.
So far.
We had a little guess before the show to see the number 20.
20.
Listen, Carol, get you a strip die, cut you some binding.
Exactly.
Yeah, bind your quilts. Okay.
You did say that the 2.5, 2-inch finished would be appropriate. Jana's wondering which size you would recommend for a queen size quilt.
Yeah, I would do for sure 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the great thing is you could either sew it to the back and bring it to the front and use a decorative stitch, or you could sew it to the front, pull it to the back if you wanted to hand stitch it, okay? All right, so I'm gonna give it some love. It is super dry and humid here in the Dream Studio today. Yes. I'm gonna pull it off, okay? And now look at this. This is what I wanna show you, because this is the magic.
I It really is.
This is
too.
strip dye magic. Look, there is no mountain in the middle. It's gonna just be perfect every single time, okay? So you could also use the 2 1/4 inch strip die to cut binding strips, and this would give you a tighter binding. So again, maybe you're thinking about submitting it to a show or to the fair or wherever where it's gonna be judged. They like that tighter binding, that 2 1/4 inch binding. It just works a little bit better, okay?
Cool.
So here is my pro tip. Because binding for me, I tell you, it's just crazy. Cut and sew your binding strips when you're cutting all of the fabric for your project. That way, first of all, you're gonna know you have enough fabric, and cut it, sew it together, do the whole thing, get it all ready. And that way, when it comes to finishing your quilt, you go, oh, I already have my binding done, and then you can just add your binding. That's a great tip from the lovely Erica. Over the holiday, I was on vacation a couple of weeks ago, and I literally had 3 quilts that had binding sewn to them. I just needed to bring it over the top and put a decorative stitch and stitch it down. Yeah. 20 minutes it took to finish each one of those. An hour I was done. It made me crazy, okay? So that's a really great tip. And just keep it with all of your other pieces from your project. That way you'll have it ready to go. Don't forget, all of our videos live on our website, Facebook, our YouTube pages. You can always go back and watch previous shows. Be sure and subscribe to our YouTube page. Okay. So now once you cut your strips, you want to sew them together to create binding. And I love a good mitered edge on my binding, okay? And before AccuQuilt, this is what I would do, okay? Just makes me crazy to think that this is how I did it. Okay, so here's my 2 strips. You know, I want to put my strips together. And so back in the day, before I had AccuQuilt, I would put them together like this.
Okay.
Okay, and then I kind of eyeball it. And I'd sew from here to here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right?
That's a lot of guessing.
So much guessing. And then this little part here, I would like trim this and cut here and trim here and hope that it would all go together beautifully.
Wow.
Well, the reality is most of the time it didn't. It was wonky, okay? So I'm gonna show you the best way ever to miter your strips with a die so that you can put them together, sew them together, and we're gonna miter them and I'm gonna sew the seam and show you how perfect it goes, okay? So what you need, now I'm using obviously solids today. If you are using a patterned fabric, this is really important. You want all your fabric to face up. Okay? And the reason is that way it's going to cut it and then you can put right sides together. Right. Okay? So, Emily, do you know what die this is?
That is the flying geese die.
So proud. Okay. Do you know what machine it comes with?
The Go Big Electric.
The Go Big Electric, right?
Yes, the 3x6 finished.
See, she knows so many things now. So it has 2 shapes, quarter square triangle and half square triangle. To miter corners, what you need is a half square triangle that is bigger than your strip, okay? This is a 3.5 inch half square triangle. It's gonna finish to 3 inches. It's bigger than 2.5. So Emily, could you use some shapes from your cube?
Oh, absolutely. Isn't it shape 3?
Uh-huh. So you could use the 8-inch cube or the 6-inch cube or the 9 or the 10 or the 12. Okay.
Yeah, that's the trick. I remember when you told me this the very first time, I went right home and tried it on with my 8-inch cube.
Did it work?
And it was amazing. It was like perfect pieces of puzzles going together.
So if you've never done this trick before, practice before you use your good grunge or whatever fabric you're binding in. Okay, so what you want to do is, again, you can do 6 layers. I'm just going to do 2.
Right.
Okay. What you want to do is you want to line the fabric up here with the edge of the blade. So AccuQuilt has this great innovation. It's called 2-tone foam. It's a trademark that we have. And this shows you where the blades are. So if I push right here, I can feel those blades. I can run my hand over it. It's going to be safe.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
So what I want to do is I want to come here. Now, it's only gonna cut where there's fabric and a mat. So I'm gonna use a smaller mat. We talk about, you know, using smaller mats if you're just cutting one shape, okay?
Right.
Now quilters, if I put this mat right here over the top of this, what's gonna happen is it's just gonna cut it straight right here at the edge.
Right.
That is not what I want, okay? It will make you cranky. But I wanna make sure my strip is past the edge of this blade. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna offset my mat just a little bit like this, okay? Then it's not gonna cut here. And this is where the magic comes, okay? So now I like to hold it as it goes through the cutter to make sure
Right, don't you do
that
any
it cuts
shimmying,
correctly.
little strip,
Okay?
strippy.
All right, you ready? Because this is magic. Okay, so now what it's done is it has cut the 45-degree angle. It's cut off the dog ears. This is what was left behind. So now what I can do is I can come right here together. I can put right sides together just like this. And now, Emily, we have that 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I can sew from here to here, and it's gonna work perfectly. So I am going to use a little pin to keep my fabric in place. And while I sew this together, Emily, tell us how many UFOs people have that
Yes.
need to be bound.
Okay, so we have, okay, Miss Andrea is also at 20.
Okay,
We have, okay, Ruth says she's down to 2.
good job, Ruth.
Good job, Ruth. That's exciting. Miss Vicky has 10.
Okay,
And then we have Miss Susan who has 5.
okay.
Pat says I'm pleading the 5th,
Cat, come on, own it.
which
We
I
just wanna
love.
know.
Oh, and Jennifer's all the way down to 1.
Jennifer, that's exciting.
I feel like that you should win a prize or something. 'cause
I feel like that's true. Holy
that's
smokes,
very,
that's
very
fabulous.
exciting.
All right, I gotta find my little scissors here.
And I think we might have had some questions. Let me see. Let me just
Oh,
make sure.
for
and
sure,
see.
ask questions. Today's a really great day to do
'Cause
that.
we have, let's see here. Oh, okay. So here's kind of a little bit of a troubleshooting question
Okay.
from Miss Jonelle.
Hi, Janelle.
So she uses the 2.5-inch strip die for binding,
Right?
irons it in half, sews a 1/4 inch on the back side, and when folding it over to the front, it always seems bigger than the back. She's asking if she's doing anything wrong there.
Now, what's happening is as you're pulling it from the back, you're probably stretching a little bit. So here is my tip about that. If you're using 2.5-inch strip, I would go to the back, press it away, right, so that you're ready to fold it over, and then just take that part and fold it in half again, and then you can line up the fold with the edge of your quilt, and it's going to be not as fat and skinny in some places.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Yeah, it just works easy, okay? So look, I'm gonna press my little seam open here, and I'm gonna tell you this is the only way I ever miter corners now, because why would you not? Okay, so look,
Exactly. What?
so now it's straight,
Wow.
okay? So now I'm ready to move down, all down, and I can miter all my corners.
It's a thing of beauty.
I tell ya. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way here. That iron is screaming hot. Okay, so the question is, why is an AccuQuilt cutter, fabric cutter better than rotary cutting? So back before I worked for AccuQuilt, and I've been here almost 11 years, when I would cut strips using a ruler and a rotary cutter, inevitably my strips were wonky, and they had like that mountain in the middle, because I'd get about here and then like my ruler would slip and then I was stuck, okay? But with AccuQuilt, my strips come out perfect every single time. And it doesn't matter what size, 1.5, 1 3/4, you know, all 18 sizes of strips are gonna come together perfectly, okay? So just keep that in mind. I feel like sometimes quilters think, oh, I can cut strips. And the answer is, yeah, but how many times do you cut them wrong? Okay? Mm-hmm. So you want to cut them correctly. So how about bias binding? This is the #1 question quilters ask me about binding. Can you cut bias binding? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can, okay? So here's what I'm gonna tell you about bias binding. I'm gonna use my 2.5-inch strip, okay? And producer Joe knew the correct answer to this. You can cut bias binding for any strip die that has just a single size strip in it. Okay, for example, it won't work in the multiple strips.
Oh, sure.
That cuts 1, 1.5, and 2. But all of the others it does. Now, I only know the math for the 2.5-inch strip die, okay? So just keep that in mind. And I'm gonna tell you what you wanna do. Notice I'm moving all my stuff. What you wanna do is you wanna cut 16 inches width of fabric strip. 16 inches is the magic number, okay? I've tried 18 inches, I've tried 14 inches. The 18 waste fabric, 14 isn't big enough, 16 is the magic strip. So if you're doing like 2 or 2.5 or 2.25, even 3-inch strips, 16 inches, okay? So what I've done here is I've taken my strip, okay? Oh man, it's been a minute since I've done this, so it'll work. Okay, so what you wanna do, so I pressed out the middle, okay, that seam in the middle.
Okay.
And once again, I cut off my salvage edges.
Okay, and actually that was a clarifying question too. Is the salvage the length of the die or facing your belly?
So strips are the exception to lengthwise grain.
Gotcha.
Because you're gonna cut with the fabric strips typically.
Perfect.
Okay.
For clarifying.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm gonna digress here for 1 second. Brock, just stay right there. Here's a question that's a really great question. What if you wanna cut super long strips of fabric? Okay, that is a great question. So what you wanna do, measure from here to here, I think it's 21 inches, 22 inches, okay? And cut 8 inches the long way, okay? And then here's what you can do. Okay, you can go back and forth and back and forth. You can't exceed the 6-layer rule.
Right.
But if you want super long strips, that's how you do it. I know. Sometimes we forget to talk about that. Okay, but this is bias binding. So I have 18 inches or 16 inches. I've come here. Now I want you to see this. Look, this is stretch. That's the bias.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm gonna turn it and I'm gonna come here to the other side and I'm gonna fold this side up. So I folded one side down and one side up, okay? Down and again, here's the stretch, okay? So now I'm very carefully.
So you kind of made yourself a little parallelogram there.
Oh, look at you knowing.
Now you're turning it into a trapezoid.
Yes, and now it kind of looks like an envelope,
Yeah.
okay? So I've taken this, I've folded it up very carefully. Again, quilters, if you have never done this, you want to practice. Okay, so now I have this little tail, and I'm going to bring it right here to match this side, so see how it's an envelope.
Okay.
Okay, now look, quilters, it passed the black line. So I kind of need to scooch things down a bit.
Right.
Okay, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to fold it in, and I want to make sure my fabric's before the edge of the blades. Okay, in hindsight, I probably should have done a color other than gray. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so my fold's okay over here, my fold's okay over here, and now it looks like a little envelope, right?
Look at that.
Okay. This is the correct way to do this, all right? So once you've folded it, then just take your mat, okay, and then you're going to run it through just like this.
And with the strip dies, it doesn't matter which end goes in first, right?
Now, I typically try to put the folded end in first
Sure.
as it just moves through the cutter.
Yeah.
I don't have any science why I do it. I just do it. Okay.
Love that.
Okay, here we go. This is magic. Wait till you see this, Emily. Okay.
Ooh.
Now, here is my pro tip. See these edges here? You want to take them away and put them far, far away from your strips. Because look, they're kind of almost 2.5, but not really.
Right.
Okay, so you just want to take the whole pile and put it somewhere else. Okay? And now look at this. Now you have these great stretchy pieces
Oh, look at that.
that you could use for your bias binding. And you would do the same thing with the half square triangle trick, right? To miter your corners.
Love that.
Okay?
I think
Now,
oh, sorry.
oh, Emily, when would you use bias binding?
Well, I was thinking, at least my instinct earlier was like on pieces where you're not necessarily sewing like a straight edge maybe on a quilt.
Right, so a curved edge.
Yeah, a curved edge, for example, or like a tumbler or something like that.
Yes, where you want it to be able to have some movement
Yeah.
as it goes around the edge. Some quilters use bias binding for every quilt they sew because they say that it's tighter and it's stronger.
Sure.
Whatever you need to do, but yes, you can cut bias binding, okay? And I only do it for quilts that have a curve.
Sure.
Okay? All right. Now, think about some smaller projects. These are for binding for bigger quilts. What kind of binding would you use for a smaller project like a table runner?
Yeah.
Any idea, Emily?
Well, I could totally see you doing a flange binding of some
Yes,
sort.
we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to talk about my favorite die to use for smaller projects is the 1 3/4 inch strip die.
All right.
Okay? And 1 3/4, I have it right here. It looks just like the 2.5. Okay? So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections of 1 3/4. Okay? Again, you could cut squares with it, you could cut diamonds with it, but I'm going to cut strips. Okay? And what you want to do is, with this particular die, it's going to give you a nice, tight binding that is going to reduce your bulk by half.
Oh, wow.
Because typically, right, we take a 2.5 inch strip, we fold it in half, we put it to the back, we bring it to the front. With 1 3/4, I'm going to show you this magic. And I'm actually going to stitch some of this down so that you can see how to do the corners. Because I feel like that's one of the things people ask is, whoa, 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 how to do the corners, okay? All right, so this is a cute little table topper that I made. I think we made this on an AQ Live.
I believe we did, yeah. I remember us
When the
playing
penguin
with the
die was
penguins.
released. And I loved it because some people said, oh, you could totally make a hula girl, right?
Yes.
And this has a little apron. I thought it was fun to add the flamingo because in
yeah.
our house of penguins that we have flamingos. I mean, it's so fun. So I just loved this die. This is the penguin die. These are the gingerbread cookie dies.
That's right.
And the
Holiday accessories.
holiday accessories.
I see the gnome hat in there.
The gnome hat. Emily cut this flower.
I did.
Yes, she used my little flower. This was just the skirt from the gingerbread cookie
That's right.
accessories.
The cookie accessories die. Yeah, yeah.
And I
Aw.
just made it look like a hula skirt. Okay. All right, so here's what I did. Now, in all fairness, I did sew this project last year in 2022. So of course it had to have a striped binding because that was my goal. So what I've done is I've cut 1 3/4 inch strips. Now I want to talk to you about this seam right here for just a second. Typically I sew my seams at an angle, right? Like because we miter them, but this is stripes. So if I mitered it, it was going to look funny.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
I see that
So
now.
think about that with your binding because, you know, maybe you don't want to do it all mitered, okay? So I've sewn it to the back of my project and I've pressed it away, okay? And then I'm going to show you the magic here. So you need a good iron, Ours is screaming hot. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna come right here and I'm just gonna start here and go down. Yeah, I'm gonna just start here because then I'm gonna show you how to do the corner. I was like, why is this not laying flat? It has a pin. Okay, so what you wanna do is, I've pressed it away.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna take and I'm gonna fold it and I'm gonna press it so that it meets the edge of my quilt.
Oh, okay.
No, it's pretty slick, okay? Here we go. And I would do this on my big iron, on my big ironing board, but for today we're gonna use our little steam press.
Rosalind has an interesting question.
Okay, Rosalind.
She's wondering if bias binding technique will work for a custom die that has 4 1-inch strips.
Yeah, I'm not sure how wide of a strip you would cut for just 4.
Sure, you'd probably need to redo the math based on the strip
Right.
size and all that good stuff, but
Right.
it can be done.
It can. Okay, so notice I'm coming here. Now when I get here to the corner, it gets a little tricky because what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you bring it here to fold it over, right?
Yep.
Okay, that it's nice and flat. Okay, so I'm actually going to press it like this
Yeah.
on the corner. So this side, okay, this side is flat. And that's how I know when I come here, then I can bring it up here and look how it's going to give that nice tight miter.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm going to show you one more time. Okay, we're going to come right here in the middle. We're just pressing flat, just pressing flat. Okay, then when I get here, I have to do it again. Okay, you have to fold it over so you know where it's going to be.
Oh,
Right.
you know how we have the 16-inch measurement for the strip die, which cuts the multiples for the Go size? So you know how there's the Go Me version of the 2.5-inch
Yes.
strip die? SC is wondering, does the 16-inch measurement apply to the Go Me version?
See, I'm thinking not because it only has 2 strips.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
And one day in my spare time, I promise this week I will look and see what size strip you need to do bias binding for that. Okay? So see, look, I did the exact same thing. I came here. Okay? So now I'm going to just start sewing so I can show you how to do the corner.
Oh, perfect.
All right? So look how pretty this is.
It's so much fun.
Again, I'm going to give it a press. We talked about making sure that, it's even
Yes.
all along the way.
That pressing is just going to set you up for success so much.
It is. And then see, look at the back.
So crisp.
Stripe binding, I tell you.
Love that.
My favorite. Okay, and I'm going to put another little pin here because pins are easy. Hey, on our website we have irons and mats and pins and scissors and all the accoutrements you
All
need to
the
sew.
things. All the cute little colored clippies too, if you're a clip
Oh, the
person.
clippies. You could use clippies here if you
I
wanted to.
love my
We
clippies.
have little clippies, look. Okay, I'm going to use clippies. Katie tells us what they're really called. They're like binder clips or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I know, we just call them clippies, Katie. Okay.
It's really like clippies.
All right, and here we go. Okay, so these are going to help keep our little binding straight. Okay, and I'm going to move my iron so that I don't burn myself. All right, so while I sew this, Emily, tell me, is there, how many UFOs do
More
folks have?
UFOs, yes. So Annette says she's finishing her brother's quilt. He had it quilted by his local quilt shop, but asked me to finish binding it because it frustrates him. That's very nice of you, Annette.
That is so nice of you. Maybe I should send my quilts there, and she could quilt my quilts. She could buy my quilts.
Right? Okay, Catherine, I'm impressed. She says, none. My quilting self does not let me move on to another
Catherine.
project until I've completed the one I'm currently on.
That's amazing. Okay, so look what I'm doing here, quilters. You could, if you wanted to, hand stitch this, do the reverse. Sew it to the front, press it to the back and then hand stitch it. I have no patience for that. That is why I have UFOs. So I am going to use my little foot here, and I'm going to keep the edge of my foot here on the edge of my binding. Okay. I just tell you.
That is
okay.
lovely. Oh, Nancy had the funniest, the funniest comment about the flying geese die.
Yes.
She said, "What in the flying goodness? That works awesome."
See, it will change your quilting life forever. That's my best trick.
It is the
Our
truth.
good friend Sharon Miner taught me that trick. And okay, so look, I am going slow, quilters. I am taking my time. Okay.
Ooh, and we have a couple folks, Miss
Sorry,
Brittany
Justin.
including, who's wondering, do you do this folding over technique with all of your binding?
Do I do? Yes.
Yes.
Because then you don't have a raw edge. Right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to get close to my bindy clip.
Oh, and Dee has a great question. What's
Okay, Dee.
the best way to store the strip dies?
Oh, Emily, do you have an answer for that?
Yes, so you want to store your strip dies like books on a shelf. So it doesn't
Yes.
matter if they're, long ways up and down or, short ways up and down, but just as long as they're not stacked on top of each other,
Right.
because that's going to put pressure, on those stainless steel blades for you.
So what I do is I stack them on the floor on their short side, and I just lean them against each other. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so now I'm right here. I'm coming close to my corner, and since I pressed it, there we go. Now it's ready to go to the other side. See, look at that. I do love a good mitered corner.
That is so cool.
Ooh, what was that? Oh, it says press your foot down. That's what that noise was. Okay, so I'm going to come right here to the corner. I'm going to catch, I'm going to make sure that I catch this other piece of fabric, and I'm literally going to go just like 3 stitches in. Okay? Then I'm going to leave my needle down. I'm going to turn it.
I love this part.
I know.
I don't know
magic.
why it's so satisfying. It's
It
so
really
magical.
is. And look, see, now it's all ready to go on this side.
Exactly.
Okay? And again, quilters, take your time with your binding, okay? It's not a race.
And when you're stitching your binding here, are your stitches kind of towards the inside of that strip so that it
Yes.
covers as much? Yeah. That's
Yeah,
kinda what
it's
I was
like
thinking.
right, oh, here. Yeah, it is,
Maybe
it's
we'll
right
show
there.
it after after it's out.
I'll show you afterwards, okay?
Perfect.
And again, I'm just, oh, I have no bindy clips here. I was like, why is this not doing
Hey,
its thing? But it's nice because I ironed it and now it's gonna lay nice and flat,
exactly.
right? Okay, so I'm just gonna go for 2 more stitches because we have other things to show you today. But this is super cool because it's just gonna allow you to do binding, and you can use a decorative stitch. I'm just using a straight stitch,
Exactly.
okay? And I'm gonna stop, so I'm gonna back stitch 2 stitches.
Noreen says we could also use hair clips if we don't have the little bindy clips.
Clips are great.
Remember those little floral ones from like the 90s?
Yes,
You
back
just
in the day. Okay.
Ask Oakley to borrow a few.
Move my sewing machine. Sorry, Justin. I had to move my sewing machine. My piece kept coming off. Okay, so look at this, quilters. Okay, so I came right here along this edge,
Yes.
right here along this edge, and now you can see the back. Isn't that beautiful?
That is so fun.
Okay, so 1 3/4 inch strips. That's what you need. Okay, I'm leaving my bindy clips on there so that I remember where listen, I'm going home today and finishing that. Okay. All right, before we get to the next question, Emily, do we have questions, first of all, and then how many UFOs are folks having?
Well, we do. Miss Rose says hello from Canada.
Hi, Rose.
I have 5 UFOs to bind. Actually, one of my favorite quilting tasks. But if I finish piecing all my UFOs, then I don't think I can count that high.
Yeah, piecing UFOs is a way different number than binding UFOs. I like that. All right, so my favorite binding of all time, Emily guessed it, flange binding. I didn't know about flange binding until I started working at AccuQuilt. So for this binding, you're gonna need 2 dies. listen to this carefully, the dies that cut 1.5 inch strips and the die that cuts 1 3/4 inch strips. So remember, quilters, all of our dies, our geometric shapes, including our strip dies, have that 1/4 inch seam allowance built in. So I'm going to tell you the cut size. For example, the 2.5 inch strip cuts 2.5 inch strips. It finishes to 2 inches, okay? So keep that in mind, because quilters ask me all the time, they're like, do you have a 3 inch strip? And I'm like, ooh, do you want it to cut 3 inches or do you want it to finish to 3 inches?
Good point.
And the answer is yes to both of those, by the way, okay? All right, so here's what I did. Oh, Emily, I'm so excited. And I'm just doing a little mock-up right here for us. I gotta make sure my iron is working. Okay, this is my quilt. Can you tell? Ooh, ah, everybody go, ooh, ah. Ooh. Hey, fabric, batting, fabric. Okay, this is my flange binding. Ooh. Okay, I know, ooh, ah. And gosh, we're not gonna, we'll sew it all. It'll be fine. Okay, so I cut 1 3/4 inch strips, and I cut 1.5 inch strips. Do not try this without a strip die. One time in my quilting head, I thought, oh, I can do that without a die. It was a nightmare, okay? Goodness. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it to my machine and I'm gonna stitch all of this. It's just the width of fabric, okay? And then I'm gonna show you how to finish it. Because this binding is super, super easy, and it looks really difficult, but it is not. Okay. It looks really professional, I think. Okay, Miss Emily, so while I'm sewing here for days, chain piecing for days,
yes.
Tell us, people's number of UFOs, and do you have questions?
Yes. Well, Joy S., first of all, happy birthday to you. Today's her birthday.
Happy birthday.
She's wondering, can you make bias flange binding?
Can you make bias flange? Yeah.
Right?
Right? I've never done that, but
I know, right? Now it's like
sure, I can make bias binding, and I can. Nah, I guess if I cut. Okay, let's noodle on this because we're super smart here.
Right.
If I cut half my strips with the 1 3/4 inch and half with the 1.5 inch strips, and did bias binding and sewed them together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, that's the question of the day. I've no one's ever asked me that before.
That's in theory. That sounds like it would work perfectly well.
Yes, I believe the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
Please make some and show us.
Yes, please.
Do you know you can share pictures with us on our Facebook page and our Instagram page?
Yes, I love seeing everybody's project. It's so much fun.
Okay.
Let's see what other UFOs we have.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, Sherry says she's finishing up hand quilting a baby quilt for a great-grandson due in March. The binding will be done today.
Sweet. And she hand quilted it. I have never hand quilted.
I don't think
I'm lucky I get stuff quilted with a machine,
yes,
to be honest.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know, that takes such dedication, though. Good for
That's
you,
wonderful.
Sherry. That's awesome.
And great-grands. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Now, you ready? Because this is the cool part. This is the important part you need to remember. Okay. So now I've sewn my pieces together, right? My little strips together. Now, typically, Emily, when you sew strips together, you just press them at the seam.
Right.
That is not true with flange binding. So what you're going to do is you're going to come here and just going to give it a little press, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it over and press it again.
Really?
So I'm going to do this. I like to press it to one side because then it folds better.
Sure, okay.
Okay? So, and it doesn't matter what side you press it to. Press it to the dark side. We're good quilters. We can do that, okay? All right? So, and, oh, here's the other trick about flange binding. You want to sew all of your 1 1/4 or 1 3/4 inch strips together miter those corners.
Yes.
Then you want to sew all your 1.5 inch strips together, miter those corners. And when you sew the strips together, you want to offset that mitering so that it's not all bunched up together.
Right, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay, so
totally.
if this was long, I would have sewn all my blue strips together, mitered the corners, sewn all my purple strips, mitered the corners, and then wherever it was mitered, I'd make sure they weren't right next to each other.
Right, kind of stagger it a little bit.
Okay, so now, look at this. So now I can press down, and you can see that little strip of flange. So remember, the wider strip is the tiny flange color. Okay? So if I wanted my flange to be the blue, it would have to be the wider strip.
Right, okay.
Okay? Okay. And take your time with this. You want to make sure that it's straight. Otherwise, your little flange strip isn't going to be straight.
Right.
You're going to be cranky about that. Okay? All right, here we go.
And when you sew on the front, when you're doing your binding, is Brittany's wondering, is it also a 1/4 inch on the front?
I try to do like a decorative stitch or a smaller than a 1/4 inch. I just like to catch the edge of that binding.
Sure.
So that there isn't a lot of give, you know, for the binding. Okay.
A lot of movement.
Yeah. Okay. So look at this. All right. Now, we're going to call, oh, look, I can write on things. We're going to call this the front. Okay?
Here we go.
Hard for you to see, but it's okay. That way I know. So on the back, I want to put flange side down, and I have to think of which way I sew. Hold, please. I sew this way. There we go. Okay. Ooh, I'm going to trim this off. Okay.
Using those cute little Karen K. Buckley scissors.
Karen K. Buckley scissors. Okay. All right, so here's what you want to do. You want flange side down, okay? Because on the back, because then when we fold it over, you're going to see that little piece of flange on the top. Now here is my other tip. Normally when we do binding, we usually cut it at an angle and fold it.
Right.
With flange binding, I have found the easiest way to do this is to just fold it down straight. And the reason is when I come to the other side,
Right.
okay, when I'm bringing that other strip into it, it's easier if it's flat. And then I can just tuck the other end
Right in there.
in there like this.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to show you real quick.
Yeah, that looks
See?
so much better.
See, that looks so much better. People, that's the question people ask, is how do you get that in there? So just fold this flat, okay?
Nice.
All right, so now, now that we're back on track here, I'm going to fold that because it wasn't straight. I'm going to press it so it's straight. All right, so Emily, any questions before I show you how to?
Yeah, actually, Ada has a good question. Is there a better sewing foot to use when you're doing your binding?
Oh, so I have a walking foot on this beautiful FOF machine. You want to make sure you have a walking foot.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I have flange side down. Okay, I'm going to use my bindy clips. Okay. And I'm going to put one up here, and I'm going to give it a little space, right? Like I normally do. And I'm going to come here with my little bindy clips.
I'm gonna find my, oh yes, the Wonder Clips is
Yeah,
what they're
Katie,
called.
I'm sure, has already put that in the channel like 6 times, Pam. Listen, bindy clips are cuter, but yes, they are Wonder Clips.
Exactly.
Okay, so today when you're getting strip dyes to do your binding, this is what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to leave it clipped up here. I'm going to start sewing here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a back stitch, and then I'm going to show you how I stop here and do the corner, because in your quilting head, you're like, oh, flange binding, how do I do the corner? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my 1/4 inch, use a ruler. Hey, we have these cute little 1x6 rulers. I like them a lot.
They're so stinking cute.
Okay, so you know where to stop, right? Then you can turn your needle.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, so here we go. So while I'm sewing, Emily, tell us if there's folks, I feel like UFO binding is a good question.
I know, right? Well, and people are going bananas for flange now. They're so excited about this.
Bananas, get them 1.5, 1 3/4 inch strip dies.
Exactly. Like Cheryl's wondering, could I use a 2.5 and a 2 1/4 strip
Oh,
for flange?
oh, that is such a great question, and here's the answer. When I first started learning about flange binding, I tried different sizes, and I'm going to tell you the 1.5 and the 1 3/4 works the best. The 2.5 and the 2 1/4, they're too big. It's too wide on the front.
Oh, kind of gives you too much to like
It gives you
fold over.
too much binding,
Sure.
right? Okay.
That's a great question though, Cheryl.
Yeah. Look, Katie, my Wonder Clips are coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, I do need my little scissors here. Okay. All right. So that's a great question. But I have done a whole lot of research on this.
Right.
I actually tried a little bit smaller too, and that also did not work. It was too small.
Okay.
There was too little.
And Leslie's
Okay.
clarifying that so flange binding is just 2 different colors of binding.
Yes. And keep in mind, okay, so look, I did the thing that I normally do. Whoops. Let's cut my thread. Left my needle down, came to a 1/4 inch, came off the edge. Okay. Yeah, it can be any 2 colors. It could be a pattern and a solid. It could be scrappy and a solid.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever you want to make it. Binding, I love it. Okay, now, look at this. So now I'm going to do exactly the way I do it normally. I'm going to bring it at 45 degrees. I'm going to fold it back down. I want to make sure that flange is down. And for sure, I'm going to put little clips in here to hold it. Okay? And that way when I start there on the edge, it's going to come. And then I'm going to go a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how to sew it to the front, because this is my little sample. Okay.
So cute.
All right. So, okay, Emily, anybody have more than 20 UFOs? Because I feel like that's...
I think that's the record so far
Okay.
is 20.
I mean, it's not a contest, quilters. We're glad that you don't have... I love the people who have 0.
Deborah says over 20. Let's see. Oh, Adele says she's a beginner, so she doesn't have any UFOs yet.
Oh, see, you're here in the sweet spot.
That is a sweet spot. I remember that spot.
Yeah.
It didn't last long, let me tell you that.
It didn't. Once you started quilting, it was like, oh, dang.
Exactly. You just get so
Okay.
excited about all the patterns.
All right, so now I'm going to stop. Okay. Look at this. So you would obviously do your whole project like this. But I love this sample because then it allows us to see how it's going to end,
Yeah.
okay? All right, now, when you get to this side, see, there's the front. Don't melt the mat. I was more worried about the mat than I was my fingers. Okay? So when you come here to the front, you're going to do the same thing that you always do when you come to that corner. You're going to come right here. I know, it's so pretty. Come right here.
Just the perfect little peak of purple.
Just the pink, little peak, okay? Then when I get here, I'm going to iron it because I find that if I press my binding, it fits together so much better.
Yeah.
So look at this.
Wow.
See, now it's coming to the corner perfectly. All right, so I'm going to just give it a little press, make sure that I have all my little ducks in a row, my quilting ducks in a row.
Is there anything better than a crisp corner?
Yeah, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to put my clip back on. And then I'm going to show you that all now you have to do is stitch in the ditch. Okay? Yes. Because that flange creates the perfect ditch for you to stitch in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? All right, so I'm gonna bring my needle. I wanna make sure that it's right there. I'm gonna do a little back stitch so we can see it. And notice right here, I have a little slit between the two sides of my 1/4 inch foot. That is where I want that seam to go. Okay, so I'm gonna come right here. When I get pretty darn close, okay, I'm gonna stop. That's a quilting term, pretty darn close,
Right.
okay? All right, I wanna lift up my presser foot because I wanna make sure that it's in there. I can see it. Okay, now I'm gonna turn it. I want you to know that this is like sewing left-handed. Usually I do it the other way, but that's how it went. Okay, so look. And now on the other side, I'm gonna do the exact same thing.
Right.
Okay, so let me lift it out and show you. Because this, quilters, it will change your life. If you have never done flange binding, here's how to do it. Just go for it, okay? So look, Emily. So not only did it come together perfectly right there, but look, I did this great stitch in the ditch.
Right.
So on the back, it's perfect.
Oh, look at it, just kind
Okay,
of runs along.
this is the reason I love flange binding, is that take your time, press it. Pressing is important.
Yes.
Okay, that way you're going to get that good seam on it.
Definitely.
And use bindy clips, otherwise known as wonder clips. All right, and then don't forget how you finish it is, since we folded it down, you're going to bring this strip on the other side
Right.
and just stitch it down, okay?
There you go.
All sorts of amazing bindings. Be sure and bind your quilts. You've spent a lot of time working on them. You might as well finish them.
Right.
All right, Emily, do we have a winner who's going to win our 2 1/4 inch strip die?
We surely do, and I'm so ready to announce it. If I could get a drum roll, please. Our winner is Leslie B. of Reed Spring, Missouri. Congratulations.
Leslie. You're going to love it.
Yay.
Quilters, don't forget to check out the AccuQuilt website for some great deals. Now, this month's die to try is the Go Canning Jar die. Oh, but Emily, we have an update.
Yeah, it's sold out.
It is sold out.
But you can vote now to bring it back.
You can vote now to bring it back, so go to the website and say, yes, we want to bring it out. The canning jar was such a fun, versatile die. We made some really great projects
Absolutely,
with it. Okay.
we did.
And speaking of fun, great things, will you be at AQS Daytona? I will be there Wednesday through Friday hosting the lounge. The amazing Emily, she's going to join me.
We're going to be there.
I'm going to teach a class on Friday at 1 o'clock. You can still register for the class. And look at this fun project we're going to make.
Oh, how cute.
Listen, we're going to cut and sew it and finish it in the whole time of the class. It's going to be
Wow.
awesome. We're going to use our 9-inch cube and a bunch of strip dies. So make sure you register on the AQS website. All right, on behalf of everyone here in the Dream Studio, we have Brock and Justin and Joe and the amazing Emily. Offsite, we have Katie keeping us straight on binding clips. We have Lauren and Morgan. On behalf of all of us, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. To learn more about your quilting craft, be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for live events every Tuesday and Wednesday. You can check out the events page on the AccuQuilt website for more details on upcoming shows. And if you're looking for even more inspiration, visit our blog for exclusive tutorials filled with tips and tricks. And remember, at AccuQuilt, we help you cut time so you can quilt more. Join me and Erica on Tuesday, January 31st at 12 noon Central Time as we celebrate AccuQuilt's 15th year anniversary. And be sure to join us for next week's AccuQuilt Live as Erica will join me and we're going to kick off the AQS AccuQuilt Sew Along. It's going to be great. It's an AccuQuilt Along. We're going to make the Go Stars on the Crown pattern. Register on our events page for the chance to win prizes.